have all this dried out. So I kind of need to go through and pick out anything that's not charred that I can see got into here. This will take me a while. I'll be right back. Alright, I picked through all that. Now what you see here is I have mostly just the branches of the pine, but you can still see a little bit of the fines are made up of the pine needles themselves. So those actually charred and created quite a bit of biochar, and now they're completely carbon. And it is now just the cell walls of the plant that are left, and everything on the inside of the cell walls has been cooked completely off. Like here's a piece where all the leaves were coming out with the needles, and it still looks like the plant. Break that off, and it's all just a rock basically right now. So I'm gonna scoop all this up, put it in a box, and take it over to the garden. I scooped up everything I could with my hands. This is everything that's left, and I'm gonna take and just sweep all of this up. That's about as good as this really sweeps up, but this concrete pad is fantastic for keeping it all in one spot. Alright, here's how much biochar we got out of the pine and the box of weeds. I have my box of biochar from all the pine and the box of weeds that I put over here a while back. The garden has taken back over since then, but I cleared a little spot so we can show the size comparison of how much fluff equals how much biochar equals how much soil amendment. And I tried pulling a tape measure on this box and got my measurements all goofed up. I have no idea how much is in here, so I just figured I'd go idiot mode and build my own box. Bam! 12 by 12 by 12. This is 1 cubic foot, so now I don't have to do any math. I can just look and see what I'm seeing. Awesome. Yeah, it's not advisable to breathe that. Hey Jim, get out of there. Go, 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 dog. No breathing. Okay, so it looks like to me I have 3/4 of a cubic foot of biochar. I'm gonna kind of draw some lines here. I can give you a better idea of how much biochar is gonna amend how big of a space. I have my biomass in my biomass that I turned into biochar in my cubic foot container, and it is a little bit more than 3/4 full. I'm just going to call it 3/4. So you could amend totally full a 10 cubic foot area. I have 10 cubes sectioned out here. It's kind of part of my control group. I'm going to do absolutely no soil amending across the first strip, and then I'm going to amend the soil with just biochar straight out of the pit. I'm not going to grind it or anything, but I'm also not going to inoculate it with any sort of activity or decomposing, anything like that. I'm not going to let it cook. I'm just going to put it into the soil dry and kind of see what happens. The rest of the garden, I actually want to get some produce out of, so I'm going to get that as full of life as I possibly can and get it nice and soft and wet of antimicrobial activity before I put that in the soil. and we'll just kind of see what takes off. Now, here's my box. This box full will amend this big of an area, so with as much biomass as I had here, this is all equal, but this will all be done because of it. And I'm able to produce about this much in 2 to 3 hours with a simple little fire pit. All right. Yeah, it's hot, but I love it because there's days like this. That were not awesome. I got sick over the winter, and that wasn't any fun. Here's a little bit of that. So I'm just thinking of those days and going, oh, this feels good. Oh yeah. Awesome sauce. I got bits of random everywhere and just making every little bit of everything count. So off I go. Smash! Oops. Now I gotta clean it up. Hooray! Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Okay. Still making biochar. Got the garden all cleaned up. All the trash is gone. Or picked up. There's a big old pile of trash. Bada bang. This is a pile of biomass that has a whole lot of dirt in it. And this is a box of biomass that has a whole lot of rotten apples. What looks like dirt is actually just apples that have been cooking for the last 8 months with no recycle program. But now that I have one in my city, I'm going to go ahead and take this dirty biomass and just put it in there. And I'll turn it into compost because it won't char very easily. I won't be able to keep the value of it on my property, but I'll be able to keep it in my community, which is a whole lot better than throwing it in the trash can. Hooray! Finally, all cleaned up. Now I can start digging. First thing I need to do is find whereabouts my sprinkler line comes into the garden so I don't nail it with a shovel. Take out this little thingamajig and then I can just go to town. Get all the rocks out, find any more trash that there is to be found, and once I have all that established, I can start working it. I might work it in sections, like I had mapped out right here, but, you know, we'll see. Here goes. Oh, I'm growing the grass out, so I have plenty of it. Charred today 3 boxes of bark and chips. There's the last of it right there. Bam! Alright, a decent little batch of biochar. Shoot, got distracted on digging up the garden and I let this ash up a bit. Oops. Monkey badgers. Stinking free hose. Thank you, Jesus. So, all of that stuff I put on the bottom didn't actually char because it was covered. Awesome. Learn that lesson the hard way. I'll take all the junky stuff and just put it directly in the garden. Alright, it's been about a week. I have a mess of toys and chewed up dog stuff to clean up, but mostly I have a pile of biochar that got hammered by the dog. It wasn't a nice pile here, but now it's just kind of all over the place, and it's got a bunch of grass and pine needles and trash in it even. So this is me learning my lesson. Now I get to go through it, scoop it all back into it, and sort all the rocks and things out of it that aren't biochar. Alright, so I got all that scraped into the middle. It looks horrible. It's full of junk. I'm going to count this as a complete fail. I am infuriated with myself that I allowed this to just sit here and my dog to get a hold of it. But I have nobody to blame but myself, so I fixed it. I will just put it directly in the garden. Hopefully that'll be okay. It will be okay. I just don't like it. But it's like over 100 degrees out here. So drinking lots of water. I'm drinking one of these like every 2 minutes. No, every 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes. Yeah. And I'm in a black shirt, but I just didn't think about it because I got dressed this morning and then I stopped thinking about it. So just rolling with it. Life is good. Alright, so lesson learned. If I'm going to make biochar, I need to secure it before I walk away from it. Because this is a mess and I am not going to sort through it. I'm just going to add it directly to the garden. But it's horribly disappointing that I did that in the first place. So I gotta pick it all up and put it in the dog kennel, or at least cover it with the fire pit cover so I can carry on. Yeah, junky dog kennel. In the garden, I peeled up this trim. Looks like it was 6-7 feet into the garden. Crazy. Oh well. I found my sprinkler line. It enters the garden right here. Comes along, goes up there. Bada bing. I just wanted to locate it so I didn't nail it with a shovel while I was digging this up. It is always time for coffee, even if it's like 107 degrees outside. Oh yeah. I cleaned up my mess. When I put my ring back, I remembered just how much of a pain in the butt the grate was. It's coming off. Bada binga! No grate, way better. Right. The blue duck leftovers from work are just not as much fun as they used to be. They were fantastic when we first got them, way too much fun, but now they're just kind of too small and constantly full of water from the sprinklers, so I gotta drill some holes in it, but I don't want to do that. It would kind of compromise what else I could be doing with them, so I'm just gonna put them in the garage for now. Alrighty then, I got all cleaned up, took the blue ducts out, picked up all the dog toys that got chewed up. Oh yeah. Alright, so this is just how crazy I am. I have a pile of biomass in my minivan, and I've got a wheelbarrow. So I'm packing it by hand. But life is just so good that, you know, I can go other places and get biomass and then just make energy out of it. Yeah! Alright, here's my pile of biomass hanging out right there in the background. Bada bing. Just a little bit, but I was at a friend's house. Other friend's house was right next door, so I just hopped over there, loaded the van up. I was going for firewood, but it was all gone because I'm slow. But hey, there was more sticks. Got the sticks. Alright, so here's the plan. I have all of this biomass that I got from Buddy's house and some pine cones that I stole from another buddy's house. I just started picking them up and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Dude, just pick pine cones up. Like, don't worry about it." Of course, he just let me have them anyway. He's like, "Dude, take as many as you want." And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay." But I'm crazy. And then I got all my leaves that I picked up this fall because there's all of this adorableness. Oh yeah. And then I got all of these are full of leaves as well. So bada bang. But I'm doing potty training tonight or in the morning, and then I'm gonna be involved in that for the next week or 2 weeks or whatnot, like every time I come home. So this is gonna be all I get. I'm not actually able to do any garden work for a second, and I'm okay with that because I got more important things to be doing. But this was just something I could do tonight because it's already like 8 o'clock and I still got a little bit of light, but I can burn stuff in the dark. So that's what I'm going. I'm going to see how far I get with this, and then all of that stuff over there that's drying out is all dry. So I could tag into that if this isn't enough to get me a full thing. Maybe I'll go even further than that because I really want this. All right. Fire is lit. And the dog already has a stick. What are you doing with my stick? Nah, looks like a pretty good stick, huh? Yeah, alright. Yeah, fire's going. Alright, so this has only been going for a few minutes now, maybe 10, and I already have it very full. So I'm getting a little concerned that it's not cooking everything deep in there. So I'm just going to have to stir this for a little while to make sure that everything I put down in the bottom is actually getting charred all the way through. I'm getting right up in here on it for you. Getting right up in here on it for you. So it's hot, but I got a lot of ash and a lot of cardboard in there that's just kind of fluffy. So I want to knock that down and kind of break it all up so that it, one, is not oxidizing, but two, it's not filling up the entire pit, and I can shove as much biomass in here so I get the whole thing full of just carbon and not air, and kind of work from there. That little branch there is kind of green. That's okay. There's enough heat to dispel all of its moisture content. So there we go. That's a much healthier looking flame, and I got all of that fluff all smashed in there. Now that it has all of this nice flame, I can stir around in there while it's still got all of that shield of other gases, not oxygen. Actually, you can see a lot of ash creation going on right there. I'm going to add some more to it, but I've kept it really stirred. Okay, that's a whole lot more of the flame I'm talking about. So, this is why I took the grate off, is because now I have the entire pit full of fire, and now I can get in here where I don't have fresh biomass. Whoop, get that guy off there. Come over to like a zone like right in here and kind of just stir it up while it has all of that shielding over the top of it, so that I can make sure I get all of the leafy material and the the fluffy stuff all broken up so that it settles down in there away from the oxygen, and it kind of enables me to get in there and kind of stir and do a little lifting and everything to make sure I get everything charred to keep it hot enough. Awesome, way better. Fire's going amazing, got a lot of pine cones in there. It was finally hot enough to actually burn the pine cones because they're kind of an inferior fuel source. They really don't burn very hot at all. But I just get everything else really hot and then those cook off just fine. So pine cones turn into biochar and they look really cool afterwards too. But I want to show you my process here on how I judge things. So actually these are full of paper from packaging, but the paper turns into biochar just fine too. Bada bing. Just gotta whack it all down as it starts to get really fluffy so the carbon content stays non-oxidized and stays inside that fire shielding to actually get carbon. So it's a whole lot more maintenance to do paper, but it's possible. Now this box is just fine because it held diapers, and then it worked perfectly fine for moving me here, and then it worked perfectly fine for holding all of my leaves or whatever else. So it's going to be perfectly fine for using again for something else. But this box, on the other hand, has a tab torn off of it, so it's not perfectly fine anymore. I'm going to tear it all up and make biochar out of it. Also extremely important, bust out with a good local brew. Yeah. That's good. Nothing like a little bit of fire and a little bit of brew. I really got to maintenance this. I'll be back. Hey, it's late, but I have 3 empty boxes. I got a whole pit of charcoal. I can put this out. I might just take that last briar out that's still burning. This guy, bam. Maybe I'll just let him go. But there's a lot of ash creation going on if I just let him go. So it's kind of a, maybe I'll just put him out and save him for later, or maybe I'll just go ahead and let him finish and be done with it. That's always a call to make in the moment. But this is full, so I don't need to add any of the biomass that was drying out over there earlier, just what you've seen. So all of that smoke is coming up, and there's no smoke coming up off the pit. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this guy out independently, set that guy down there, go get the hose, put this guy out, and then double check, make sure there's no smoke coming out of it after I stir it up real good. Awesome. This guy is still smoking and it's cold enough for me to touch, which means it's still undergoing pyrolytic decomposition inside there, and it's kind of heating up on me. But you know what? It's not gonna be. It's gonna be fine in the garden. I'm just gonna take it over there, and I'll watch it. All right. Once again, what you see rising there is all just the ash rising in the hot air, as well as some of those embers. So my little fork is able to move up all the way through this, which means to me that I don't have any heavy stuff in there that hasn't completely charred, like the big log that the dog is still barking at. I love it. And I don't have any pockets in the sides here of anything that still hasn't caught on fire because it's in a thoroughly stirred, no smoke, no flame. Everything you see here on the top that's black is all of the carbon that's not oxidizing. That's just fantastic because it means I get to keep it, and all the glowing embers that are nice and pretty mean that it is oxidizing, which means I don't get to keep it. So I need to put it out as fast as possible. But check this out. That guy's that's a piece of a pine cone. So that entire thing is a is all carbon. That's all completely just charcoal. Biochar. Beautiful. Alright. Put this out and call it a night. Because my pit's full. Even though I had more stuff. Alright. I took the ring off the top. Now I gotta dig down inside of it. Just enough to make a ring. I don't want to get it in the grass and everything so that I end up getting a whole bunch of other junk mixed in with it. But just enough to get down in here into these dry spots that I'm finding. To really soak it, to stop it from oxidizing. This is life. Doggy wants to play even while you're working. Life is good. Oh, big scary dog. Big scary dog. This kind of feels like Jurassic Park because I'm getting eaten by a little dinosaur and I'm like digging through other dinosaurs stuff. This looks pretty soaked. I'm going to go ahead and pick it up to keep the animal out of it so it's not getting spread all over the place like it did this morning. Because I actually got to focus on this and I don't have two hands, one to play and one to work. So I took a second and then we'll put you away, pup. Put the dog inside because I didn't have two hands to play with him. Say la vie. I'm going to fill this up, go stick it in the dog kennel to dry out. There it goes. This morning's fail, I just shoved off to the side so I had plenty of room. This little pile was just a fire pit hanging with the fam jam, but you know, every fire pit's an opportunity, so I put it out after I enjoyed the fire and we all went inside with the hose and I got a little bit of charcoal out of it. But this is how much more charcoal you get out of actually tending it like you're trying to accomplish biochar. Sweet, I'm gonna get another bucket load. So right here I'm not using a shovel, specifically so I don't end up getting a whole lot of dirt involved. And then I can accurately explain how much percentage of biochar to dirt I'm actually accomplishing. And then I know that it's 100% carbon and not a bunch of little other pieces of biomass that might be hanging around here, rocks, dirt, all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing this by hand just to be accurate about it. just picking up where it feels really gritty and grainy or grinding kind of as I'm picking it up. But over here where it starts feeling kind of mushy and kind of holding together, I know that's just dirt because it feels like mud. But where it feels kind of light and crunchy, I know it's all just biochar. I am leaving a little bit of the biochar behind just because I know I'm going to reburn on this location anyway. So today was a success because I accomplished getting this much biochar in a fairly short amount of time. It felt like maybe 3 or 4 hours.